And if you look, I see that now. We're able to see most of
Mm,
our big abilities. Like my big ability is Heaven's Rain. I
yeah,
do 10d6 damage plus 1d8 per SP I drop. If I drop
yeah.
all 8 semblance points into that, I can do over 100 damage.
Mm.
Not all the
But
time,
it's
but
a
on the high.
very risky.
And
It's very risky.
the other thing I think on top of your point is, I mean, regarding trying to draw comparisons to the actual show RWBY, this is kind of, like I said, down to people's interpretations. Like, it's often fair to consider a show itself is an interpretation of the universe that it's trying to do and isn't necessarily a true interpretation. In that, we've seen these characters who are the heroes of the show getting through combat quite proficiently until they come into combat with other people who are also as trained. But even then, they've had some more threatening enemies in the Grim to fight and stuff. But when you look at the contrast in tone between Volume One and Volume Three, it's evident that the kind of way they've portrayed the Grim and other combatants being inconsistent in terms of its threat level sort of shows how the universe of RWBY might actually be a lot darker than they initially showed it. And that's what I mean in terms of the game's tone. If the game is meant to be dark and gritty and realistic, then it can still feature things like the Grim and our powers and such. But on the same hand, with that same setting, you can have incredibly powerful characters. So I think it is down to your expectations of what should be going on in combat more than
Now,
anything.
if we were to fight Team Ruby as a four-man team,
I think we
or
should
if
get
we
absolutely fucked over.
if I don't think so. I think that we should be relatively
Uh,
even at this point.
Yeah, it would be pretty fair. I wouldn't be
Now,
pulling a rein
if
on you guys.
Given how well we work together, I'd disagree. But
well, I'm talking about at the
mm,
very first
yeah,
beginning times
Yeah,
of
like three days after
yeah, okay,
like
after
when Mike
the
was
start,
with it.
yeah,
after they became
yeah.
a team.
3 days in, then yeah, maybe we'd be okay. Mm,
Now, at the end of Volume 1, if our teams fought, probably still would be relatively even because we would have grown together as a team.
mm,
Now,
Which
if we
is what
go up against
happens.
Team Stork, or
mm,
Start.
Stark,
Stark.
yeah, would not be a very good fight. They
no,
would just
Here's
completely
what
on
would happen. It wouldn't even be Team Stark. It would just be Crow,
Team
and he'd
Pro.
just kill us.
The
Yes,
only remaining
He'd
member of
backhand
the team.
us.
yeah,
and he would do it while drinking his flask
yeah,
with his right hand because you got to drink with your dominant hand.
mm-hmm,
Well, he'd also when he fought Winter, like when Winter's like got her like fencing stance out, and he's like doing his weird like swashbuckler, like taunting her by tapping her sword thing.
mm-hmm,
He's
Yeah.
holding it in his left hand even.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah,
But I
So
mean, so that is the suspense of disbelief.
yeah,
Now, if is RC what I use to show massive, oh my god, you're freaking epic moments is skill checks. Skill
mm-hmm.
checks really wouldn't
yeah,
work for what we've been doing recently.
More so,
Eventually, it's going
yeah.
to do that though.
More so than just, oh, I hit it even harder than before. It should be, I do it whilst doing an acrobatic leap or charging into it with my athletics and that kind of such. Yeah,
I
Yeah.
spin my axe to get 3 hits the start. Then on the fourth spin around, I spin it, check it right into the guy's head, and then just power the boosters on the bottom half and send them flying into the air.
yeah, and that should be
Yeah.
a check rather than having a +10 on your weapon or anything.
yeah. No, that's
And
definitely a check.
the way that I do skill challenges, like one time last year, my team or my players infiltrated a Imperial base
Mm-hmm.
because they were trying to take down the Holy Empire of Alagon and trying to find all these necromancy stones. The point is, they had a bunch of slaves in there they found out that they didn't know were theirs. So they pretty much burnt the entire base to the ground. And they did this because they were separated, they did this entirely by skill challenges. There was no combat,
Mm-hmm.
but they were murdering the grunt soldiers because at the time they were, pretty buff. They were like level 5,
Mm-hmm.
and these guys were like level 0.
Yeah, if you've
They-
got
they
if you got challenge
Hey.
if you've got like challenge rating 1/4 guardsmen, then yeah, you know, you
Definitely,
can do that.
when players start getting stronger, what it definitely should be is that mooks, like it's great to always use challenge level 1 enemies all the time, just
Mhm.
because when you start getting stronger, it starts being one-hit kills,
Yeah,
and nothing feels quite as satisfying as like having like a squad of like level 1 Duragar or something like charging at the
It's like if you
team.
guys try to come back to juniors at a later level, and
Mhm.
all of his men try to rush you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
I mean, nothing feels more satisfying than just being like, I put 3 arrows in my bow, fire them all off, and
Mm.
then you roll like
Yeah.
1d20 and get a high enough roll, and just like you headshot 3 of them.
yeah. I mean,
Oh, there'd be individual roles.
yeah.
So.
I mean, that's the thing. Like for me, this is very much a personal note. I like to roll characters that are kind of at the very most just above average. Like I don't like starting off unless I'm starting at level 8 or something. I mean, like we're talking level 1 characters here. I like to roll out new characters at level 1 who are typical or sometimes
But
even underpowered, because it gives you that headroom to grow. And for me, like on the roleplay side of things, I also like the role-playing aspect of seeing my character didn't just gain more strength or gain more dexterity, you know, that they've practiced their fighting, that they've through their adventures
But-
they've grown to be more competent.
Yeah, but I mean, especially in a world of RWBY, they give like we have an excuse for how we can start off with combat being relatively easy and still ramp it up and still use the same enemies, because I mean the Grim, we can say that at the beginning we're fighting younger Grim, and then towards the end we're fighting older Grim,
I think
and also we can say that the humans we're fighting are just more trained than the first humans we were fighting at the beginning.
yeah, I think that interesting contextual point, kind of besides the mechanical things in regards to the Grim, given that we know they sort of, you know, are in abundance where there's a lot of negativity and stuff, you could somehow abstract that that pertains to their power level, you know?
Mhm.
Like really realistically, the most of the monsters at the Battle of Beacon haven't really been anything different from what we've seen in the series, but shit's really hit the fan because so much more negativity is going on, hence why
Yeah.
they're actually bothered
Yeah.
attacking in the first place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I entirely agree. You can abstract the level of difficulty, as you know, through creature maturity and level and like extra training and stuff as you go on. That's entirely true.
Is this gonna mean that next time Iris gets angry, a Grim's gonna attack her?
Probably not.
No.
Okay, good.
I
No,
mean,
not, I
just
mean,
think of
not
it,
not unless we're like inside a forest.
hive of them.
Well, no, if we're like inside a forest and there's a decent number of them hanging around in the forest, maybe if you get angry, they'll come and attack.
Yeah,
Now they'll come towards you because they'll sense it.
yeah.
If it's
There's some more grief
A
between the
high
teams.
But I mean, like
that kind of thing.
inside Beacon
Yeah.
or Vale, no, there's no. I would be upset if there was a chance of that happening.
Yeah.
now, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're basing all of this off of 2 combats.
Yep. That's very true. We don't have enough information.
So, and those 2 combats were developed during the first session,
Mm-hmm.
where we didn't know how much this is going to be.
Yeah.
You might be surprised to where we can take down a Grim in 2 hits next time, and they're a lot easier to hit because we're fighting little
Yeah.
children Grim, and we might be fighting.
I think it still took
Deeper.
a good 4 or 5 hits to kill them.
Again,
I
This
was
is
I was
based on-
personally surprised at how quickly the Taijutu actually died. I know
Yeah,
I know I got very high rolls, and my character is a character that can do that stuff. Like that's within the realm of possibility for her skill set. But even then, like I don't think the fights have been unbalanced so much as Ajita just pointed out. We haven't had enough statistical data to see how averages really work with this system. But that's why I would rather go with proficiency bonus than a flat weapon bonus, because starting with 0 weapon bonus means we have room to add weapon bonuses later to be even more badass later on. Like I prefer starting off a little bit, you know, with less of these bonuses so you can have them later and actually experience that development and progress. That's why I'd rather roll with
But I mean,
proficiency, because proficiency naturally increases too.
But I mean, even with starting it off like this, I mean, we can get higher boosts. So I mean, there's still that level of there's still that room to grow. It's just in a
Yeah.
different way.
I agree, but like, what I mean is, from a mathematical point of view, as I was saying before, like if you start out with level sixes, and we were talking about being able to roll a 10 on acrobatics by level 3 and stuff, that progression gets kind of stunted, or else you're adding such big bonuses to things that there's nothing's even a challenge anymore by a really early point. That's why it's
Well,
worth turning things back, if you ask me.
here's how the actual higher modifiers go. The
Mm.
higher the modifier, the higher the challenge. So
Sort of, yeah.
now, well, that's how I've done it in my 4th edition game that's been going on 2 years now.
Mhm.
And 3.5 was done pretty much the same way. As you get higher, the challenges get higher because you add half level. Now, it doesn't grow as exponentially as other things do because you can take talents and stuff
Yeah.
like that as you level up that'll give you a +3 versus something else. But I mean, the way that my characters do it, there's some stuff that is practically impossible no matter what you roll. You can roll a 40 and that's actually a statistical impossibility with what they're doing right now. But you can roll a 40
Yeah.
and still fail something because it's impossible in that universe.
Yeah.
Or you would need ungodly amounts of power. Like Bahamut would have to be assisting you to be able to achieve this level of power.
hmm
But just saying, okay, we've got a +10 to attack doesn't mean that you're not going to be hitting them
No,
100% of the time.
yeah, this you're not going to hit them 100% of the time, but it really moves the averages around is the problem for me anyway.
Right.
In
But
terms of keeping things.
I'd like to avoid
consistent.
having an XCOM situation because it feels like every time I play XCOM, it's just constant like missing. Like I can never get anything done
Yeah.
because it feels in the end like the odds are stacked against me no matter what I do.
That,
No matter how much I do to
yeah.
prepare, the odds are still stacked against me. So I don't want it to be like the odds are stacked against us,
Yeah.
but I don't want it to be easy.
That's
know
what I
I'm saying?
mean. Like lowering the AC on things like minor Beowulfs and minor what are they called, creeps and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like lowering the AC it makes them easier to hit and makes that the early combat more like that.
Yeah,
But
and
I just
if we're
all
going
I
to,
mean is for the sake of progression, I think going for proficiency and attribute modifier is a better way to begin with, and then as we progress, every couple of levels the proficiency modifier goes up by 1, and we can start to learn our weapons more and get bonuses on the weapons and stuff.
I
Yeah.
agree with you. That does make a lot of sense. I mean, I really don't
That's-
care if we do the +3 on my sword.
Mhm.
Uh, as long as we're able to do like what we can in D&D and change the main stat that the attack is based off of. Like
Yeah.
my character is dexterity based,
Mhm.
not strength based.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. I
attack
mean,
modifier should go based off of dexterity because that's his type of
Yeah.
fighting style.
I mean, for you, with the +3 on your sword, our proficiency bonus is a +3 at the minute anyway. So statistically, there isn't actually a change, but it's the fact that for the mechanical progression of the characters
Right.
and how that stuff works,
hmm
it will enable. From a mathematical basis, it enables a bigger spread of average as you increase, which the GM at least at that point can then go, okay, so statistically, with the level 1 mooks, you are then almost guaranteed to hit them, instead of having to then give really stupidly high ACs onto monsters, so that you even have a chance to hit. Like D&D 5th edition, the highest AC in that book, like typically, is only like 24. But there are other systems which do it more like this, where the ACs get way into like sometimes even past 30, because there's so many feats and talents and things you add in to get
Yeah, right
massive
now,
bonuses.
if I
Yeah.
dropped a solo dragon in front of them at
Mhm.
level 11, that AC is around 27, 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which system's this?
That's 4th edition.
Yeah, 4th edition.
Yeah.
Because fourth edition has got more
See-
combat emphasis and more mechanics for that.
See,
So.
my problem is if we go with just the flat proficiency thing, that would actually drop my sword, and my sword was the only thing I was able to hit anything with, and even then it was just barely. So
But even then, that barely hitting it was still a statistical improbability. You know.
Yeah, and I pulled